Welcome to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and happy Monday to everyone. We are the Way Out. We are an intensive outpatient program. We serve adolescents, adults, and their families located on the corner of Plum Canyon and Bouquet Canyon. Our phone number's 296-4444. And please visit our really incredible website. You know, we have a lady, an organization that puts together our website, and they do a really, really fantastic job. The Way Out Recovery, scv.com, and you can make a confidential appointment on that website, or you can call us directly again at 296-4444. You know, I get to come in here on Mondays and remind everyone to take this opportunity. You know, we're sitting on the beginning of a week, and we can look at it a couple of different ways. Oh my God, I got so much to do this week. Or I can look at it as wonderful. I have such a great opportunity to go out and help people, interact with people, and really take an opportunity on a Monday to get grateful for this beautiful week that's coming up in front of us. You know, so I have in studio with me today one of my favorite guests. Hi, Linda Davies. I got to get used to saying this, so I'm going to say it. So, okay. The Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center.
Yep, we're finally merged as of January 1st. Yep, that's our new name, Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center. That's us now. Yes.
We'll get used to it. And that's that's wonderful that when you take two great organizations like this and are combining efforts to do work in our community, it's really a big deal. So, Domestic Violence Services of Child and Family Center. Yes. Linda Davies is the executive director.
No, I am not anymore the executive director.
What's your title now? You're just like the
I'm changing all over the place
awesome
here.
Gal.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. No, I am the Senior Division Director of the Domestic Violence Services and Interpersonal Violence. It's very long. I have a whole sentence, okay? So I haven't quite mastered it yet, but I'm a Senior Division Head, a Division Director is what I am
you've
now.
Been working in the Santa Clarita Valley in the world of domestic violence and helping families for how many years now?
Well, it's been 6 years since I've been here, and you know, what I feel is that what's really good about our merger is that we built an agency that needed an infrastructure, you know, because it had gotten so big and served so many people that it needed, like, you know, the stability of a finance department, a marketing department, you know, a contract department, because now we have like 5 or 6 different contracts that we are managing. So, yeah. Yes. So I mean, I've been in this community for the last 6 years, really kind of developing the Domestic Violence Center, because what we wanted to do is reach out to the community. We wanted to make sure that people knew where to go, since domestic violence is such a big deal, and it is in every community and in every neighborhood and every economic strata. So we really wanted people to know where to go to get help. And so that's been our biggest push. And I feel as though the community has really responded well to us, and we've been able to get out there with a lot of education, a lot of classes for people. Like, we've increased our classes over at the Outreach Center on Newhall Avenue. So yeah, it's been a good 6 years. It's been in the beginning we weren't, it was kind of like they were hiding, you know, and you can't hide from domestic violence, because that's what domestic violence is about. It's about silence and about no one knowing.
Yeah, and so raising awareness and talking about it openly, a lot like what, you know, the solution to any of these difficult issues, part of it is talking about it openly.
Right. And having a place where people can actually walk in and get help when they're not sure, am I in a domestic violence relationship? Am I not? What is this, you know? So we really wanted to have that be a place where we could give that information out in a safe way for people, but in a way that they felt empowered and hopeful. And that's, I feel, what our job is. Our job is to keep their stories and to give them hope. So,
well, and just in terms of, so a couple of reasons that I thought it was really important to have you on the show today is, anytime we have an opportunity to talk about difficult issues, but also on the heels of the Women's March that was this weekend, I know that you went down there and, and this is, yeah, please. And this is one of, I think the best way to put it is, Gosh, I wish I could go back and remember exactly who did this, but I went to College of the Canyons Performing Arts Center about 2 years ago, and there was a gentleman who was giving a talk on
Gender bias.
and he when he got up there, he said, "Look, we talk about women's issues and
Yeah.
women's violence and women's issues." He goes, "But these are men's issues because, whether we want to say this out loud or not, I'm going to anyway, is, the perpetrators are, and the society is like we teach our kids, we show our kids stuff about violence and like manhandling and all these roles that men have that really need to change so that there truly is equality when it comes to women and women's issues." And so, what was happening down at that march?
Oh, down at the march. It was really, they've done it. We went last year too, and last year LA had the second biggest march in the nation. This year it had the biggest march in the nation. So there was 500,000 women, children, and men, okay, at this march. And really when you got to talk, one of the biggest deals right now, I think for everybody is, of course, with that whole Me Too movement, we had a lot of people talking about, women's rights, equality, the fact that men do need to, and the guy that you were talking about that was at COC was Jackson Katz.
Okay.
And we brought
Okay.
him back another time the following year too, because Jackson does a lot on gender equality.
I just love the way he presents because
Yeah.
he got up there and he said, "These are men's issues.
Yeah, they
like
are
the
men's
men are the
issues.
ones who need to change."
Well, he does this great TED
Right.
Talk, and he has this thing where he says, it used to be, so Mary was beaten by John. John beat Mary, and then somehow Mary becomes a battered woman, and Mary is a victim of domestic violence, and where did John go? We
Right.
take the guy right out of the picture, and we don't hold them responsible. And so that's a lot about what was happening at the march, was saying we're all responsible for what's happening, and we're all responsible to make the world a better place for women, for men. It's going to make it better for everybody. And there was it was actually really well done, and it was a kind and nice place to be. People were really good to each other there. There were so many people, but there were no problems, and there was a lot of speakers that were coming up. But the biggest thing that came up, I think, and I can't say this enough for everybody, is that people have to get out there and vote. You know what I mean? If people want to see things change, if people want to see what they value to be happening, that they have to get out there and vote. And so that was a big push. They had places to sign up to vote if you needed to. But it was very inspiring. It made me feel good for you too about the work we do. The fact that it's not just I feel with the women's movement, we kind of had it more the educated woman got kind of what she needed. She was going to have a job where she was now going to be able to, work in with not, even though it doesn't happen completely yet, but, her job was going to be better. Her pay was going to end up better. She was going to be a little bit more competitive with men out of the women's movement. But we left behind as women, a lot of women who needed us to support them, women who are possibly, didn't have the resources. Okay. I'm getting into this, and I'm moving away from the mic. Maybe people from, people that are new to our country, or, people that didn't have the education but they still needed the rights. And that's what the women's movement was about too, was that, we were looking at equal rights at a certain time, and people weren't talking about what was happening in people's homes between husband and wife, or, boyfriend and girlfriend. And that's when the women's movement came out, was around the civil rights issues. So all of this is tied in. But we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to make sure that everybody gets what they need. And that's really the goal of what they were talking about. So it was pretty inspiring. There was a lot of great speakers there. There was a lot of good music. But it was worth going to. It really was. And it was so much more, it was well done, considering last year, I almost fainted on the subway. I never faint, okay, but it was so cramped and crowded. So I ended up we ended up going at 9:00 instead of early in the morning. And that was perfect because the subways weren't crowded, and we got to get right into the march and get right over to where all the speakers were and everything. So it worked out well. But there was 500,000 people there, and it all was very orderly. So it was good.
Well, I mean, it speaks to what a huge change we need to take place. Is how many years have we been talking about equality for women, and here we are still. It's come on already, right?
Right.
One of the things that I loved about that talk that I went to was we can do a lot on an individual basis to sort of change the way that we view the different sexes. When I catch myself with a crowd that is telling those offhanded jokes
Right.
about, to stop doing that kind of stuff,
Right.
to stop teaching my kids that kind of stuff, to teach them what equality looks like. And we can all do that on an individual basis. And if we start doing that, I think that it's going to have a dramatic impact not only on violence in general, but certainly on domestic violence and intimate partner violence, because it's really about love and kindness at the end of the day, about treating each other with love and kindness and respect,
And we should be equal, but we also should respect that we're different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the sexes are different, but we have to value each other for those differences. And I think that that's what's been lost in our society a little bit, is that it's more of a male kind of patriarchal society. And, so that's, I don't know when this will happen, but the point is people need to start thinking about it and respecting it. And I think the thing about the Equal Rights Amendment, like, there's some pieces in it. I went to a thing at COC. Obviously, COC is our place of reference here today.
Right.
Where they had a talk.
There's a lot of wonderful stuff
Yeah, there
going
are.
on over
I know. And it was on the ERA and on the equal opportunity, right, for women.
Okay.
And there's something missing in that law that doesn't give us equality. And if I was super, super smart, I'd remember exactly what that was right now. But there's something that has to actually go back into that law to make it really about equality. So there was something that was kind of not quite right when they set that up. So, and if I could have looked into that too if I thought we were going to talk about this, but I didn't.
Well, it just kind of came up because when, so we do a lot of stuff in, one of the things I love about Santa Clarita is that there are tons of organizations that are helping people in need, and we're starting to more and more come together and do a lot of collaboration. Several months ago, a wonderful woman by the name of Diane Green started talking to you and I about a dental clinic that's been going on for years in various locations. But her husband, Dr. Neil Green, is a local dentist, has been for a long time. And that conversation with Diane was around how can we put on these dental clinics. And so we looked at various locations, and we ended up on Saturday, while you were at the march, I was at the dental clinic. And it was wonderful because I was just amazed to watch these dentists come into our location and set up with mobile equipment, and there were 5 or 6 dental assistants and then some other people. They just brought a whole team, came in, set it up, and we were able to get services for people who can't afford, to get dental work. They can't afford the insurance. They don't have good insurance. And so there were people from the Domestic Violence Center as well as the Way Out, and it was just really cool that we got to collaborate on something like that.
Yeah, I heard it went really, really well. I talked to Krista Warfield, my program director, went that day, and we had I think it was six people. Well, actually, we had 7 people that signed up because at first we weren't sure how many because we were splitting this. Right?
It was sort of a trial run, so I think there was about 10 total that ended up showing up.
Yeah.
So it was nice.
Yeah, so that worked out really well. And everybody volunteered their time, as far as the dentist and the hygienist were concerned, which was really pretty amazing. And they have, like the thing about Diane and her husband, Neil Green, they have a real heart to do this. And they want to do more. And they're really looking for a permanent place to house their stuff. Right now, Camelot's been really wonderful to them. Camelot Movers have been really great to them. They've allowed them to store their stuff for free there. But then every time they have a clinic, they have to go get a truck and bring it over to the spot. So I know that they're looking for another place. So if anybody's listening,
a place where you can do the clinic and storage all in the same area, and neither one of our places have that availability.
No.
Either one of them is good for the services themselves, but the storage piece is kind of
the storage piece is what's hard,
and it's not. So anybody who is listening, it's really not that much space. It's maybe, gosh, I don't know if you can see this room, but maybe half the size of this room, like a closet.
Like a closet.
Like a closet is all they really need. It's not a whole lot of stuff. All that stuff stores up. The most wonderful thing about that whole deal is, I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been to one of those dental clinics. I've done a lot of service work and stuff with homeless outreach and whatever.
Right.
But at the end of so they had 2 chairs going, and everybody who got that work done, when they got up, the gratitude that they expressed
Oh, yeah.
was just amazing. I mean, there were people that were going through there that said, like, I would have never got this done. Like, I've been suffering with my teeth for however long, and you guys just, and they're like in tears going, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, and that is what, I get the opportunity to sit in here with a lot of people like yourself who have made it their mission in life to serve others. And when we get to do something like put on the clinic, and Diane and Neil Green, and I wish I knew the names of all their assistants that showed up, but it was just, I was expecting Dr. Green and maybe somebody else and Diane kind of, helping with the paperwork. And I tell you, man, their whole team showed up, and it was just amazing. And those people really are dedicated just to the service of others.
Yeah.
They want to help.
Yeah. I think sometimes we don't realize how important the whole thing around dental care is, too, for people that haven't had it. Right. The pain that does and so forth, So I know I had a dental initiative when I was back in New Hampshire where the poor kids it was hard for them to even go outside and play because the cold air hit their teeth. It was so painful for them. So you think people that haven't had the money for a long time are still dealing with things like that. So that's really the great part. And then eventually we've talked about that going forward, we may be able to do children as well. This time we just stuck
they
it
were
with
really
adults.
We brought that up at the clinic, and they were absolutely talking about working with kids. So I think that's going to happen in the future. So pay attention to what we're doing on either one of our websites and on our Facebook pages. You guys, so while I have that there, the Way Out Recovery SCV is our Facebook page. Please go on there and like that and watch the events that we have coming up. Is yours under Child and Family?
Not
or
yet.
Is it?
It's dvc-scv.org is
That's
what
still Facebook?
that's our webpage.
Okay.
And also our Facebook page you can get to like that.
DVC
too.
of SCV?
Yeah. But I mean right now we're in the merger process is a little bit
Takes a while.
But it's the little things that we're working through, like it's around our emails, it's around our, how do we kind of get everybody's, like we've got things that we've planned forever that we've been going to do. How do we let them know about it? So I'm just proud of ourselves. So we said today, Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center.
Well, but everything has to tie back in there.
Yeah.
So, somebody who hasn't talked to you in 2 or 3 years and go, oh, let's get the DVC out here.
Right.
And they look you up. It better go to your new website or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to get lost.
Yeah.
But look both of these organizations up on our Facebooks and follow or like or on the Facebook pages. So that way, when we announce like the dental clinics, that stuff will be announced on our Facebook pages along with our websites. It's tough to send out individual emails to the hundreds or maybe even thousands of emails we gathered over the years. But Facebook and Instagram and things like that are a wonderful platform for putting this stuff out. The plan is to do a free dental clinic 4 times a year. So, pay attention in the next couple of months. We'll be announcing that again. What we really want to do, we have a need in the substance abuse arena, and you have a need in the domestic violence arena. We also want to reach out to the homeless outreach as well and try to tie all that in. Which is a lot of the same population. Right. Over the last 12 years that I've been working individually and with families and doing groups, I cannot tell you exactly the number, but it is such a common thing that it is that we do anger management and things like that inside of our treatment. It's encompassed in our treatment, but there is a great number of domestic violence and intimate partner violence that goes along with drug abuse, drug use, and alcoholism. And you guys, I'm sure, see a lot of drug use in with the population that you serve as well.
Very much so. So we do, and that's what I like about working with you, too, is that we're able to share resources, too. Like you send people to us, and we send people to you, and you help us out with sometimes we may have to, especially at our shelter, we may have to drug test somebody, too. Right. So that's been really a helpful thing for us to have that. So,
and something something else that's really cool about you guys merging with Child and Family. For those of you who don't know, Child and Family Center has just started a drug Medi-Cal. So if you have Medi-Cal and you need drug services for, I want to say 14 to 24-year-olds.
Yep.
I had them on
Yep.
here, and I'm
Yep.
pretty sure
Yep.
that's what
Yep.
it was.
Yep. It's the TA youth. Yeah.
14
Yeah.
to 24-year-old with Medi-Cal. That's a wonderful service that anybody can tap into by calling the Child and Family Center
Absolutely.
as well. And we see a lot of the same people. We get a lot of crossover with what you guys do and what we do. And that's the other reason that I think it's really important that you come on the show, you know, a couple of times a year and we talk about that.
One thing I want to say, though, and this is one of the myths of domestic violence, is a lot of people think it's that if
It's
you
drug driven, and it's the other way around a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah. So and so people will say to their, you know, the daughter who's in a domestic violence relationship, if he or she will think herself, if he just stopped drinking or he just stopped using drugs, then this wouldn't happen. It'll happen no matter what.
Right.
You know, it just may be that she can. I always think around the alcohol piece, she may understand when it's going to happen a little bit easier because if he
you
comes
can see him
home
getting drunker and drunker or something, right?
something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But otherwise, he's still going to be an abuser, whether he sobers up or not, until he gets the treatment through the anger management that you're talking about and really takes some hard looks at what he's got to do about himself and what he's learned, because it's a learned behavior that they learned in the home.
So when we come back after this break, there's a couple of things that we're gonna. If you're just joining us, please stay tuned. I am in studio with Linda Davies. I'm not going to try to remember what your new title is over there, but she is with the Domestic Violence Services of Child and Family Center.
That's right.
And when we come back, what I want to look at is what you're doing with the Sheriff's Department and give some real practical tools to anybody who's listening that may be wondering whether they're in, an unhealthy relationship, and then go over your services that you guys provide over there.
Okay.
So this is the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits. We'll be right back.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrecoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call the Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrecoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
KHTS wants to help you save money. Go to shopkhts.com for half-price certificates to your favorite restaurants and businesses located right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. Huge savings on your favorite places. You can also buy them right here at the KHTS studio during business hours. Start saving now.
Aloha, friends! We invite you to come by Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brewed coffee. What makes our coffee special is how our organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. We're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on Lyons Avenue and Walnut in Newhall. Stop by and say aloha!
Your hometown station.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and I am in studio today with one of my favorite people in the world, and that is Linda Davies over at the Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center. And I really mean, I get the opportunity to sit in here with a lot of helping people, but you're one of my favorite people to have on this show because you've been doing this for so long, and you're really, you're pointing in the right direction, and your heart is so totally in this. You know, it is. I don't think a lot of people realize that. when somebody makes a decision to get into the kind of work that we do, like it's not just a job that we go to,
No.
you know?
No,
It's
no.
like you really are dedicating your entire life on some level to try to ease suffering, you
Right.
know? And that's a big deal. That's
Well,
a
I
big
think
deal.
we're both trying to make the world a better place for people. You know what I mean? That people have,
Turn that off, we can hear ourselves
gotten
better.
off- people get off track. Their families are messed up. They go through a lot of things,
Right.
generational, and even with, alcoholism too, right? I mean, it's definitely runs in families, and so does domestic violence. And so my whole thing is around kids too. It's like, how do people change that? How do they break that cycle? How do they really feel like they have the worth of having a better life?
Yeah.
But it's painful. It's not like, oh, just stop something. There's a process, and the process is to really look internally at yourself, which a lot of people don't really want to do,
Right, and like you talked about, multi-generational.
Multi-generational,
You know, when
yeah.
it comes to the way we treat each other inside of our own families,
Right.
it is a lot of times behavior that's been carried over again and again and again. And I think a lot of times people don't even realize that they're doing it.
Well, they don't realize it. It's
You
like
know?
it's interesting because we'll have women come in and they'll talk about the fact of what this particular perpetrator did to her, which would be horrific to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then his parents are calling her the whole time saying, "Why did you get him arrested? Why did you get him arrested?
Yeah.
Can't you drop the?" But he needs to get arrested because he needs to not do this to anybody else, and he had no right to do it to her. So there does need to be a consequence for what happens. But families, because they lived through it and accepted it, and didn't then why can't you go through it and accept it?
Yeah, and it's really sad to say that a lot of times these, it's like the norm.
Right,
It's
right.
like the norm. Like that's the way I grew. What do you mean you don't
Right.
yell at each other and throw stuff? That's of course
Right,
we do, right?
Right. And
Yeah.
then also I remember working with a high school counselor, and he just said one day, "I wish that this kid would just know that his dad smelling of whiskey at 7 a.m. in the morning is not the normal way to get woken up."
Right.
You know what I mean? But that's been the way the kid's been woken up forever.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah. So they
So
don't know the difference.
a lot of the work that we do is trying to create that new healthy norm.
Right.
Trying to get people to see that, oh, wait a minute, this is abnormal.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute, it's not okay that he talks to me that way. Oh, it's not okay that he puts hands on me. It's
Right.
not okay that he threatens or whatever's going on inside of the home. And to get people to see that. And it's kind of cool when somebody realizes that not only that it's really abnormal, but that there's a way out as well.
There's a way out.
That
Yeah,
there's
there's a
some
way
hope.
out. Yeah. I think about that too with like just the whole kid piece. That's the part that was always so hard for me. And coming into domestic violence work is how much the children are affected and how much the families don't realize that the kids are affected because they think it's just between them. It's like the parent who says,
We don't fight in
we
front
don't
of them.
frighten. Yeah, so they don't feel the tension.
Right.
Yeah, but
As,
yet.
yeah. As
They
I'm
fear.
as a child, as I'm sitting in
Right.
the other room listening to the madness going on
Right.
out there and just afraid to go out there.
Right. And
you know?
depending on brain development, I mean, babies in cribs who hear fighting end up with worse issues later on than even a 4-year-old who witnesses it.
Well, certainly we don't have I think it would take weeks to really open up what happens physiologically with the stress response and our reaction to that. But any kid or adult, but certainly kids that are in a situation where there's that constant stress,
Yeah.
that constant fear that's
Right.
going on, those stress hormones running through a person's
Absolutely.
system do dramatic changes in terms of brain development and response and how we're going to end up doing drugs and things like
Right.
that. Somebody who has a high stress level that does drugs, it's not just like I'm going out to party and have fun. It becomes the medicine for that
their way of
for
life.
that stress.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's a very, very big deal that we create a nurturing and loving and kind and safe. I
Mm-hmm.
think safe is probably the best word here for our children. That it's safe, for
Right,
them.
right.
So you guys have, it's almost kind of like I want to say, you should be doing this, but I think recently you've really started to do more inside of the sheriff's department, or is it just look different now?
No. I mean, as of 2015, when we had there was 9 domestic violence deaths in our community, which was quite a bit, you know, considering in Santa Clarita or anywhere it would be a lot. But what happened is that the sheriff brought together. First of all, we met with the city. The Domestic Violence Center met with the city, and they talked about what could we do to kind of help educate or to be there to help with what's going on. And the interesting piece for us was that none of the people that were killed were clients of ours. And then once we put the 13 group of nonprofits together that were on this divert task force that actually the sheriff's department put together, none of those clients had ever been able to reach out, had reached out to any of those. All right, so a lot
which indicates a couple of things. If they had, maybe this wouldn't have happened, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So we need to get more, visible around these things. And the thing is, there's such a stigma around what you do and what we do that, we've got to stop, we've got to kind of forgive that and give people the rights to a happier life, a healthier life, So how do we do that? Well, we get education out to them. That's really what it is. We start to talk about, hey, the laws can help you if you're in a domestic violence situation. It's not going to ruin his life if you get yourself a temporary restraining order. You're going to basically say, no, you can't do this to me anymore and make it safe. But then there's so much stuff for people around there. The breadwinner loses his job, or I don't think he's not going to lose it for the temporary restraining order, but he may pull back from supporting the family because he's mad that it's done.
Well, I think that's what makes it so difficult for, women and then, of course, if there's children to break away from those kind of relationships too, is there are so many factors we don't often look at. A woman that's been married for however long she's been married in a domestic violence situation, to get out of that, she's like starting over.
Right, exactly.
Financially, emotionally, everything starting over. And a lot of that fear keeps them stuck.
Sure it does. Sure
keeps
it does.
people stuck.
Yeah. But what happens is we wanted to be more accessible to people, and we wanted to work really closely with the sheriff's department, because the sheriff's department, domestic violence is about, from the sheriff's point of view, it's about woman being afraid that she's going to be killed. All right. But it really is about, an abuse situation of physical. That's what the law says. Okay. Domestic violence agencies, we're about the pattern of domestic violence. We're about the behaviors of domestic violence. We're about financial abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, cyber abuse. All right. So we want them to know they can come to us about that, but then also, how do they work within the sheriff's system that says it's about physical abuse? Yeah. And so you are afraid for your life. So in a way, we teach them, and we teach the sheriff's station too sometimes, or certain people, deputies, what really is happening with these clients that we see and the urgency that they have to get themselves a temporary restraining order. So what we decided to do after a couple of tries at different things, we kind of did a little bit of it was like a pilot program where we put 11 volunteers. We trained them to do ride-alongs with the sheriff's department on Tuesdays and Thursday nights. But during that time, there was no guarantee we were going to see domestic violence. So a lot of times our guys would hang out and, be on all the regular calls, and nothing would really be going on. So we didn't feel it was the best way for us to utilize this, because we weren't getting a grant to do this. We were just doing it out of how do we help our community. Okay. So then what happened was we decided to do put somebody in there a couple of days a week right in the sheriff's station. And we've done a couple of things. And recently what's been nice with Captain Lewis is he's given us an office. So when you walk into the sheriff's station, to the left, there's a domestic violence advocate in there on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays is when they're there. And so that way, if they go up to the person at the front desk and they need more resources than that person's able to give them, they can go in and talk to, and Amanda Ellis is our victims advocate at the sheriff's station. So that's been really great, and it's allowed us, and we've gone from no law enforcement referrals, or maybe 1 or 2 a year, to like 65 to 75 law enforcement referrals since we've started this partnership with the sheriff's station. And so the other cool thing that the sheriff's station has now too is that they have a victims advocate in there, which is victims of crime. Okay. So they're in with the deputies, but they don't just do domestic violence. They do elder abuse. They do any kind of criminal, to help you figure out how do you get compensation, what are your rights around this as far as like the district attorney's concerned and all of that. So that's a little bit bit different, but we work closely with her as well, which has been a really, really good relationship for us to get our clients better services. And, but it's education even on the side of the sheriffs, because they don't get a lot of training on domestic violence, and they don't get they kind of get screened to see if domestic violence has been in their families. It's not something that they've lived through. So a lot of times they can get a sort of a jaded idea of a victim because she'll call because she wants somebody to stop the violence, but she doesn't want them arrested. You know what I mean? But just come in and stop it. But yet their job is really to arrest them and to make you safe that way.
Well, it's not. That's where you guys come in.
That's where we come in.
They get those calls and say, "Oh, call these people right now," or come in. We have an advocate sitting right
Absolutely.
here. And I think, when it comes to law enforcement, there's probably I bet they feel like their hands are tied a lot of times because they can see that it's kind of a classic control relationship
and it's
going on,
for them,
but there's no physical violence going on yet,
right?
And so their hands are kind of tied. They want to do something, but if there's no crime that's been committed, and domestic abuse or violence and domestic situations are really about control by the abuser, correct?
Right. Absolutely.
And so the control can come in many different forms.
Right, it does. That's it. And so what happens then is, like at the shelter, we're going to see people who are running for their lives. I mean, that's what happens. So it's
emergency
really,
shelter, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, in our emergency shelter. And so that we have a hotline for, which is 661-259-4357. And that's where you would get, but it wouldn't be that Santa Clarita women would go to our shelter. They'd get the resources to go somewhere else because Santa Clarita is their danger zone.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
They have to kind of leave this area. But it's a big deal when a woman goes to shelter because it's like witness protection. She has to drop everything, take her kids out of school.
And pay attention to that, listeners, is that's how big of a deal. This is... some of them are really in danger. Their lives are in danger.
Their lives are in danger. That's who's coming to our shelter, is their lives are in danger. And the people that come to our outreach center, they're in abusive relationships. Their lives may not be in danger, but they need to figure out either how do I live with this or how do I get out of it. And not everybody's success is that they have to leave the relationship. What success is at the outreach center is I start to feel better about myself. I start to add more things into my life that I need in my life.
Right.
Understanding self-care, understanding that they're going to get pushback from the abuser because he wants to control all of that stuff. And then when it gets to a place, either they decide, okay, I've built myself up enough. I've gone back to work. I've gone back to school. Now I can make a break because I know what I'm doing. I'm not doing it in a crisis. And sometimes it is that, hey, he's emotionally abusing me, but you know what? I can live with that because here's all the things that I still have in my life that work in this relationship, and I just get it, and I'm not going to buy into it when he starts doing it because I've learned some tools.
Well, and best, it's sad to say this, but it probably doesn't happen as often as any of the other situations, but I think best case scenario would be for the whole family to get counseling and therapy and to try to work through and change the unhealthy patterns that are going on.
Right.
So husband and wife and kids,
But
right?
you don't do the husband and wife in the same
No, I don't mean together.
room. Yeah.
No, I don't mean together. But I mean, best case scenario, wouldn't it be cool to see everybody do that?
That is it.
The sad thing is I don't think successfully that happens as often as either something really horrific happens or a woman is empowered enough to say, I'm out of here.
Right.
But the services that you guys provide are on the entire sort of continuum of all the way to really, really severe emergency shelter up to, at the beginning, what does a healthy relationship look like?
Absolutely. And that's what we do with the teens. That's the teen piece that we do, too, is that we do a lot in the schools on what's a healthy relationship look like. We don't even call ourselves Domestic Violence Center in there. We call ourselves Healthy Connections. So we can go in and talk to kids. And that was always my biggest thing.
What does that look? Go ahead. But what does that look like when you get there?
Well, we'd have a curriculum that we got that actually is a evidence-based curriculum, and it's based on the core competencies of the health curriculum for California.
Right.
And we go in and we're able to talk about, what does teen dating abuse look like? What does, being aware of sexual assault awareness? There's 11 modules that lead up to this. And the schools have their own curriculum. So some schools might want us to do all 11 in the health classes, but a lot of them may want us to do just the 2 that I talked about, like the sexual awareness one and around what's teen dating abuse.
God, I'm thinking how tough that must be, because some of the teens that we work with in our center, it's what do you mean texting him every half an hour isn't healthy, and like back and forth, and shouldn't I be it must be very difficult to teach a teenager what healthy looks like when they're not,
right.
Right. When they're in the middle of calling each other all the time and checking up, and shouldn't I be isn't that what love looks like?
Isn't that what love looks like?
Right.
Well, that's a little bit of what we have to talk about. So, yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Tough with teens, but it's neat when somebody gets that aha moment, especially the younger, the earlier in a relationship, the better, when somebody says, oh, wait a minute, this isn't healthy.
Right. Right.
Oh, I need to make some changes, and he needs to make some changes, and let's see what that looks like. And just like what we do with drug use, the earlier that I can get in and start to teach a person what healthy and unhealthy looks like, the better chance they're going to have of not getting so far into an unhealthy relationship with a person or drugs, right, that they can't get out of it.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, it is. It's really important to go. And so we're going also into elementary schools, but talking more to teachers about how to identify kids that maybe so you're not like labeling them as ADHD, but you're really realizing that they've got trauma. So it's a trauma-informed perspective that we're doing. And then, eventually I'd like to go into preschools too and be able to work with families and be able to help them become protective factors around what's going on in their homes. So there's a lot of work to be done, but if you're going to change the cycle of violence, that's the only place you're going to be able to change it is when you start early. Yeah. And that's true for your work
absolutely.
as well as for our work, So there's always something else that we can open up. But right now, the teens are our biggest deal. And February is Teen Dating Abuse Awareness Month. And so I have a youth prevention. And that's another reason why I wanted to merge with Child and Family Center, is because, well, first of all, they work with children, all right? So we, for a long time, have been referring our kids over to them. Now, because of our clients being their clients too, then the kids become their clients too. So it's easier access for us to get them the services that they need. So that has been a big deal for us because we wanted to be able to offer that.
Well, it makes perfect sense because the entire family is the victim, if you will, right?
They're both.
And so
everybody
needs work.
Yeah,
everybody needs work.
Yeah, everybody's a victim. So one of the things so I was thinking, if I didn't merge with some agency, then I would have to pull in the resources that we do. So I'd have to build an infrastructure. I'd have to get a development person, a finance, all those things. Right. And so what we're doing now is the youth prevention. I've got 3 people in that department right now, and they are doing an event in February, on February 23rd. That's an art event, and it's kids doing artwork to talk about their domestic violence, any kind of teen dating abuse issues, or anything around an unhealthy relationship that they know of. They're putting it in either film or music or in painting, and then we're having a display for people to come, and it'll be an event.
Where is this going to take place?
That's going to be at Savia at 23780 Newhall Avenue. And that is going to be at 6 o'clock, and we'll be putting a lot more out on our Facebook pages and our web pages about that. We have it on there now.
You said February 23rd?
February 23rd.
Okay.
At 6 o'clock. It's a Friday night.
It's a Friday.
Yeah, it's a Friday night.
Yeah, I would love to. I would love to have our participants come
I'd
over
love
there
you to do that. Yeah.
Because we have Friday nights, we have groups for our adults and our adolescents.
Yeah.
I'd love to. We only got about a minute left before we go to a break. When we come back, because the work that you guys are doing with teens, you've been able to come into our organization through Windows Between Worlds and do art with our teens and our adults, and we're really happy about that. We've been getting a lot of really good feedback. And
so
great work that's taking place. So the work with teenagers is absolutely essential.
Yeah,
and
great.
So when we come back, let's talk a little bit about that and give some tips on, because we're only going to have a couple of minutes coming back, on if you've been listening and you or a loved one it seems like they might be in an unhealthy relationship. What can we do right now? We'll give those tips. So
Okay.
I'm Bob Sharits. This is the Way Out Recovery Hour, and we will be right back.
Santa Clarita Philharmonic has begun its season of free concerts. The SCP is a non-profit community-based volunteer symphony orchestra comprised of local musicians from throughout the Santa Clarita Valley who are dedicated to providing quality classical music for the residents of the Santa Clarita Valley. Like the Santa Clarita Philharmonic on Facebook or visit santaclaritaphilharmonic.org for more information.
The Santa Clarita Artists Association has a new gallery in downtown Newhall on 6th Street between Main and Railroad, right across from the Canyon Theater Guild. The gallery features our members' paintings, sculptures, and one-of-a-kind handcrafted gift items. Whether you're an art lover, buyer, or an artist wishing to join, visit our website at santaclaritaartist.org, come to our free monthly meetings at Barnes & Noble, or stop by the gallery. For upcoming events and exhibits, check us out at santaclaritaartist.org. We make visual art visible.
KHTS. We fall so hard. Now we gotta get back what we lost.
Welcome back to the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and if you are just tuning in, please go to our Facebook page, KHTS Facebook page, or the DVC Facebook page, and you can catch this video. I've had in studio with me Linda Davies from the Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center, and it's been a lot of really, really incredible information. If you're just catching us right now, you can always go back and watch the video. So really there's a highlight on trying to get in younger and talk with teens about what healthy relationships look like. February is Teen Dating Abuse Awareness Month, and so you guys have a big push going on. February 23rd at the Savia Building on Newhall Avenue, there will be an art event at what time? 6 p.m. And
There'll be music and,
Yep.
it'll be film and painting and, what else did I just say to you? Music as well. Yeah. So.
Well, art is a wonderful way of expressing and raising awareness to some of the issues that are going on. We have an art exhibit in the works that we're going to be doing in a few months.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
So you guys probably see it a lot too, but especially with the teenagers, we get them in, and there are so many creative and artistic people that end up in counseling and in drug use and in unhealthy stuff because of whatever reason.
I don't know. Sometimes I think it's sensitivity and a little bit of melancholia.
Very emotional, right?
Yeah.
And so there's really, really some creative expression when we give them a platform to do that, and it draws attention to the issues that are going on, like we've been talking about. One of the solutions, I don't know, biggest or otherwise, is us trying to cut through the stigma that goes around. People don't like to talk about domestic violence.
No,
they don't like to talk about I'm being abused. They don't
Right.
want to talk about that stuff. They don't want to talk about there's drugs going on inside of my home. And we want to create a safe space where you can talk about it, and there's no judgment, there's no shame, and it's safe.
Yeah, it's like the
safe.
guilty. And parents feel like, oh, people are going to look at me and think I've done something wrong, or and it's not about that. It's just about getting the person the help they need, getting the person to feel better, so that they can make the decisions that they need to make about themselves. And the other thing that we're doing around the art exhibit too is that there's going to be traveling through different high schools, and this will also be on our webpage and on our Facebook page, is a pair, like 5 pairs of shoes. And the shoes are going to be a story that a teen has gone through. So it's called Walking in Their Shoes.
Okay.
And that's going to, they will also be at the February 23rd event, but they're going to be, and actually KHTS is having them here as well. And so people can come in the community like we did with the Red Dress Project, and see and understand what some teens went through. And I tell you really quick that this girl emailed us one time and said, I wish that you guys were in our schools when we were young, and maybe I wouldn't have gotten into my domestic violence relationship or into my teen dating abuse relationship. And the thing that we have to really be opened up about is, again, the stigma piece, is that a lot of times parents don't want things like this talked about in the schools.
Yeah,
the
that's
schools are
yeah.
willing to talk about it, but a lot of times the parents don't want that stuff talked about. And you've got to realize that the more tools your kids have, if 1 in 3 teens are going to be in a domestic violence or teen dating abuse relationship, 1 in 3, you got to realize that somebody's got to get some messages out there to them, so.
Yeah, we have to absolutely change all of this. The 1 in 3.
1 in 3. Yeah,
Wow.
1 in 3. Sexual assault is also 1 in 3, and for men, sexual assault is 1 in 6. So, and that's by other men as well as, that's really where that comes in for men and sexual assault.
Yeah,
So-
it's a very big deal. Speaking of art and the wonderful way to express, Windows Between Worlds is a program that you guys have had integrated with the Domestic Violence Center for a number of years.
Oh, a long time. Yeah.
And we really are grateful that you guys are able to come into our program and work with not only our teens but our adults as well and give them an avenue of expression.
Yeah.
And that's been really cool. Natalie Coleman over there.
Oh yeah, Natalie's great.
Yep.
And I like the fact that we're able to do that. We don't charge you to do it because our message is really to educate the community, to really, I like the fact that we can share services that are going to help the people in our community instead of always looking at it like we've got to make we all want to make a little money every once in a while, but we don't want to do it from one another.
Well,
in that
it's
sense.
certainly helping. We've gotten some great feedback. So if you've been listening to this or later on you're going to watch this video and you realize that something isn't right in either your own relationship or somebody that you know, the Domestic Violence Services of Child and Family Center, see that catch?
That's
See that?
good.
Domestic Violence Services of the Child and Family Center doesn't just work on crisis after it's happened. You guys educate and you have services. So real quick, phone number and services we can access.
Hotline would be 661-259-4357. That's an immediate. You need out of your house immediately. But we always recommend that you call 911 also. And then to call our outreach center for classes, for therapy, for temporary restraining orders, you would call 661-259-8175. Our website is dvc-scv.org, as well as that would be our Facebook page as well. So you can call and just ask questions. That's what we're all there for. So and that happens daily.
Right. So there are support groups going on over there?
Yep, support groups. We have individual therapy going on over there. We have parenting classes.
Peer counseling.
Peer
parenting.
counseling.
And those are parenting classes that meet the
Yep.
Requirement of the courts
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
So that's important for people
it's
to
a
know.
16-week victims advocate. The victims program that we do is a 16-week domestic violence class. We don't do the batterers intervention one. We send them to Emerge from Anger for that
Okay.
one.
Yep.
And then we also, as the big deal too for us is that we are able to do temporary restraining orders. So that
court advocacy
court
as well.
advocacy, and we
Yep.
do go to court with people because when you go for your restraining order after the temporary, it might be the first time that you've seen your abuser since the incident happened.
And
So
case
we send-
management would be tapping you into other resources
Yeah.
that a person might need as well.
Right.
And of course, you have the emergency shelter that you talked about and the 24-hour helpline.
Bob, you are so good.
I take notes.
I got it. I love it. Thank you.
So, thank you, Linda. Thank
Yeah.
you very much for coming
It's always
on the show
good to
today.
come on. I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you. It's
very
fun.
cool. So again, if you've been watching this, it's always available on our Facebook page, DVC Facebook page, and on KHTS. Linda Davies, awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Okay.
All right, this
All right.
is the Way Out Recovery Hour. I'm Bob Sharits, and we will see everyone next week.